So I'm not gonna hold y'all. I did not read a lot for February like I planned. I didn't read a lot for Blackathon as much as I'd have liked to. I had a crisis of self-esteem where I just woke up one day, and maybe it's because of some videos I was listening to where they were talking about like black people and their self-esteem, and it made me look up the definition of self-esteem. So that kind of like had me going like, oh my gosh, I resonate with this right now. I thought I was over self-esteem issues like from since I was young, but apparently I'm not. So in the process, I didn't read as much, but I acquired some new books based on my self-esteem. But before we get to that, let's talk about the books that I read. So honestly, I did not read this like actually in February. Like I read it at the ending of January or right before February. I finished it. But I enjoyed this a lot. We Are Not Broken by George M. Johnson. I loved it. It was a great memoir. I need to reread this. I appreciate that it was so, for lack of a better terminology, it was so easy to read because it was just so accessible. Although it was accessible, it was still heartfelt. It was very touching and it was great to like just get even more insight on George and their family and how they grew up. The fact that All Boys Aren't Blue is actually going to be adapted, I can also see this being like adapted into that television adaptation that George and Gabrielle Union are doing. I just love the stories that they tell about their life and their family, and I would love to see that on screen, on TV, and to bring those experiences to life. But I thought this was beautiful and I look forward to reading it again. I'm sure there'll be even more stuff that I tab in this compared to like how I tabbed up All Boys Aren't Blue. Like I tabbed the life out of that book. Once I do a reread of this, there's gonna be even more tabs in here. She's gonna be thick with tabs. It's gonna be ridiculous. Next, I read Bboy Blues by James Earl Hardy, which I'm finally glad that I could have gotten to a reread. And I had a lot of tabs for her. I had sticky notes up in there with feedback that I was giving to the book. Like, girl, what is this? There were moments that like I loved, and there were moments that was just like, okay, we don't do that no more. What are we talking about here? Why are we doing this? This is not okay. None of that is okay. And then some of it was just kind of like, oh yeah, I resonate with this. This is amazing. And I think there was more good to the book than there was things that I hated about the book. Some of those things that I didn't like about the book were just things that it was a different time and this was not okay, and folks didn't really know better, or maybe they knew better but they just didn't go the right way because it was just common practice, and now we know better and we don't do that as common practice. I still love the book. Still great for me. She just had her moments where I was just like, we don't do that anymore. What are you doing? And then I read Freshwater by Akweke Emezi. I think that really like a lot of this book I felt hit home on how I felt about my self-esteem. A lot of it correlated to how I was feeling, but not fully. And this book also is very, I kind of understand it, but I kind of didn't. And I understand it in different ways. I understand it from this very African spirituality way that is very real, very literal to me, but then also in like these analogous metaphorical ways of your mental health or mental illnesses or mental different abilities being manifested as like gods in your head, and these things make you different and special, but also like the implications of some of those thoughts. I think I may need to reread this book and go on an even deeper dive of understanding this book. The writing, at first it felt dense. It took me a little bit to get into it at the beginning, but it got to a certain point and I was all like, okay, let's do this. Where we going? What we doing? Bring it on. I'm looking forward to reading more of their work and seeing how it connects and resonates with me. I'm thinking maybe I might be an Akweke Emezi fan. And because of my crisis of self-esteem, I decided to get Rock My Soul by Bell Hooks, Black People and Self-Esteem. I was thinking to start reading it soon, but along with Rock My Soul, I also got All About Love by Bell Hooks, New Visions. I've heard a lot of people talk about this and they said it's an amazing book. I need to read more Bell Hooks because The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity, and I forgot what the other part of the title is. That really resonated a lot with me. I loved it. I need to do a reread of that. But I was like, I need to read more Bell Hooks. I've heard so many great things about Bell Hooks' work. I finally have All About Love, and now I'm also going to read Rock My Soul, because self-esteem for Black people is a whole separate, different discussion that needs to be addressed in its own specific way. So I definitely want to see how a Black person discusses it, especially a Black woman, and what I can glean and learn from that and integrate into my own life, improve my own self-worth and self-value, and move through the world a lot more self-assured. Also, prior to that, I decided to get Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself, which I think falls really well and in line with self-esteem and all that stuff. I just came across this book on Twitter. Somebody posted a picture and I saw the title and I was just like, let me see about this book. Let me find it. Found out it's a Black woman that wrote this. Listen to an interview with her. I'm on the right track. I am looking forward to reading this. Also, I had this on my wish list for the longest. Pleasure Activism by Adrienne Marie Brown. I think I heard about this from Ashley at the Bookish Realm, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna need to get this. At first, when I got the book, I was like, oh my gosh, this looks like academic text, and it's about pleasure. And it's like, academic text isn't always pleasurable. But from some of the chapters and kind of how, from the little bit I've read about it so far, it seems like it's a lot of anecdotes about women and their lives and their pleasure and activism through pleasure. I love that. That sounds amazing to me. I like the idea of pleasure as activism. I love pleasure. I feel like I want to get more in touch with my pleasure. It'll be a while before I get to this book, but I'm gonna get here. Recently, Julia Cameron, the writer of The Artist's Way, was interviewed by NPR's Life Kit. I listened to that episode and I decided to go and get The Artist's Way, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. I had heard about this book years ago. A lady who was an actor, she told me, oh, I'm reading this right now. I know that you're a writer. You should read this. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll definitely check it out. And I'd never checked it out. And that was like years ago. That's probably like more than 10 years ago when this lady told me about it. And I'm sure she's doing amazing. She's probably on Broadway or something. She's probably doing some Netflix show, or even if not, she's probably doing something that's like fulfilling her life. And I've even heard more from other people about this book. And they were like, you should definitely read it. And I've realized that a lot of the tools in this book, I've actually heard people talking about and practicing these tools, like morning pages, like just journaling, stream of conscious journaling, and going on a date by yourself. And then I also just learned that this book is based on the 12 steps in like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, because Julia Cameron had to deal with her sobriety, and through her sobriety, she was able to write this book and create this program where each week you are doing these 12 weeks, these 12 steps to discovering your inner creativity, your inner artist, but also rediscovering it if you felt like you've lost it or you got it beaten out of you from your childhood. And now you're an adult who's like, I want to be creative. I feel stagnant. I feel stunted. So now it's like, I want to thrive. I started reading this. I did my first 3 pages of morning pages this morning, and that felt amazing. It felt amazing because I accomplished something that I wasn't sure how well I would do at it. I thought like, oh, I'm gonna just do 1 page because my hand is hurting. I don't know what else I'm thinking, what else I want to write down. And it was just like, I managed to fill 3 pages. Part of the reason why I stopped was because like, bitch, I gotta go to work and I don't want to be late. Okay. I mean, I was like, oh, late. But you know, I got to work in a timely fashion. I'm definitely going to be a little bit more intentional for tomorrow, where I need to go to sleep right now. I definitely want to be intentional with just waking up, picking that journal up, and just like writing my three pages and clearing my brain out and getting ready for the day and just feeling more at ease, more calm and level-headed and chill, and just go through my day and just not be worried, not be clouded in my thoughts, my judgment, or anything. This morning, doing the morning pages, there was like a breakthrough for me where I was able to just mentally manifest things that I didn't think I would be able to mentally manifest. And it was just great to manifest that mentally. And I feel like the more I mentally manifest the things that I want and see them clearly and make them happen in my head, the more I will actively manifest that in my real life and just be active and intentional about doing that. And finally, because it is International Women's History Month, and also we just came out of Black History Month, and I still been meaning to read Binti. I am reading Binti by Nedra for the complete trilogy for March. I started reading it. I am up to page 18, 19, and I'm enjoying it. It started off with some amazing world building, like some interesting world building. It's not like too intensive, but it's good enough that like I feel like I'm there. I see it. I feel it. I'm experiencing things, and I'm like sensing and tasting and touching and all of it. Even smelling, maybe. Yeah, even smelling, all of that. I'm seeing all that needs to be seen, feeling all that needs to be felt. I'm feeling it. Being that it's science fiction and I haven't read too much science fiction, especially space opera science fiction, I'm appreciating that it's not too dense or like scientific or just anything that's gonna lose me. I'm looking forward to getting further into this book. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I'm out this bitch like Fleek. Shout out to Peaches. Thank you, girl.